Matthew and Mark mention that he asks if they would have him release Barabbas or Jesus. Actually, no, never mind. Mark and Luke and John all have him only mentioning Jesus being released and then them calling out for Barabbas. Luke says, I will therefore chastise him and release him. John, but you have a custom that I should release to you one at Passover. Will you therefore that I release to you the King of the Jews? So I could combine Luke. I will therefore chastise. Will you that I chastise and release to you the King of the Jews? Then after that, the question from Matthew and Mark, Barabbas or Jesus? So I'm going to do that. But first, I'm going to start with John. But you have a custom that I should release to you one at the Passover. Will you therefore that I'll have chastise and release. And is from Luke, release is from both. To you. And before I say the King of the Jews, I'm going to have the entire name. Matthew has Jesus, which is called Christ, then the King of the Jews. Mark has just the King of the Jews. Jesus, which is called Christ. Luke just has him. So it's actually Mark and John, the King of the Jews. So this is how it reads. But you have a custom that I should release to you one at the Passover. Will you therefore that I chastise and release to you Jesus, which is called Christ, the King of the Jews? The word therefore is in Luke. I will. Actually, maybe I should make this a statement, as it's said in Luke. I will therefore chastise and release to you Jesus Christ, the King of the Jews, not a question. I know it's a question in John, and Mark, and Matthew, but it really makes more sense that because he's already seeking to release him, he would just say, this is your custom, I'm going to release him. No, I don't think I can do that because Matthew is pretty clear. He doesn't just ask once, he asks twice. Barabbas or Christ once, for he knew that of envy they had delivered him. Then his wife comes to him and tells him of the dream. Then in verse 21, the governor answered and said to them, "Whether of the two will you that I release to you?" Two questions. If I have the statement first by Pilate, then they respond, "No, release to us Barabbas." I could have him then sit down, as in Matthew. His wife comes to him, tells him of the dream, and then he says, "Which of the two, Jesus Christ or Barabbas?" But their response is only mentioned once in Matthew and Mark. Actually, in Mark it's mentioned twice because they give their response, and then he asks again, "What about Jesus?" Luke, "I will therefore chastise and release him." They cried out, saying, "Release Barabbas." Pilate therefore, when released him, spoke to them again, but they cried, "Crucify him." The second time is crucified. Mark and Luke agree. John, they cried, "No, Barabbas was a robber." And then Pilate went along with it. So Pilate doesn't have another questioning. What does Matthew have again? One question. Will I release Barabbas or Jesus? Second question. Should I release Barabbas or Jesus? Then the third in Matthew, what should I do with Christ? Crucify him. Okay, so I'm just going to go with that instead of having a statement, a question. Or maybe I should do that because... No, Mark and Luke do have two questions. Mark, one question. And then the second is, what should I do with Jesus? So I could have the first statement, I will punish Jesus, and that could be the replacement of the first question from Matthew. And then him sitting down asking them. They say no, Barabbas. And the third, yeah, I think that would work. Matthew has, which of these two? Again, which of these two? What about Jesus? Luke has, I'll release Jesus. Then they say, no, Barabbas. What should I do with Jesus? Crucify him. So I can replace the first question from Matthew, which of these two, with the statement from Luke. So that first it's the style from Luke, I'll release Jesus. Then they respond, no, Barabbas. And after he hears that confusion, it would make sense for him then to sit down and then officially ask the question, which of these two, Barabbas or Jesus? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm going to go with the way Luke says it. He mentions their custom that he releases someone to them. And then he brings it up. I'm just going to release Jesus because he knows. As it says in Matthew and Mark, for he knew that the chief priests had delivered him for envy. That's Mark. Matthew, for he knew that for envy they had delivered him. So instead of Will you therefore that I chastise and release you? I'll have I will therefore chastise and release. Jesus, which is called Christ, the King of the Jews. And it's not a question, it's just a statement. Actually, if I do this, I'm not going to use the King of the Jews from Mark, because that first mention, I don't think I should have his entire name and title. In the second one, in Matthew, it says, whether of the two will you that I release to you? He doesn't name Jesus at all. In Mark, again, they're moving. It's just like Matthew, that's after the first. Luke. It's just him. So I'm going to save his title for the second cry for his death.